I'm Mark.
And I'm Josh.
And this is Comics Are Awesome for the week of September 6, 2017, brought to you by Alter Ego Comics. And man, it is a huge week for indie comics, and you'll see that's a lot of what we talk about this week, which is great, because more of you should be reading creator-owned comics than those by the big two, because sometimes the big two screw you. So, my pick of the week is one of those indie books. This is Lazaretto, #1 by Boom Studios, or published by Boom Studios, written by Clay McLeod Chapman, illustrated by Jay Levang. And I don't know why this is called Lazaretto. Do you?
I don't.
Do you remember? This is the story of two college freshmen who...
You know how when you go to college, the first couple weeks a lot of people get sick because, you know, different people from different places coming together and...
STDs and stuff?
You know.
No, not that bad. This brought me back to my college days and going to the health center. But anyway, so college starts for these two wonderful children, and in the meantime, outside in the real world, there is kind of this avian flu going around. We'll kind of compare it to the bird flu, but I believe it is the dog flu. And it hits the campus that they are on, and this is the story of what happens when that happens. And it's part Outbreak, part the Andromeda Strain, part Dawson's Creek, maybe. I don't know. It's just it really impressed me. Like, I had no interest in reading it. We got an advance copy, and we read every advance copy for the most part from publishers where we can adjust our numbers up or down, because that's our job to read comics and tell you which ones are awesome. But after I read, I thought, man, that was really, really good, and it was better the second time around. So my only complaint with this book is those of you who dislike Jeff Lemire's art style may not be able to be down with this, because Jay Levang, I think his art fits the story, but it's kind of tough. it's kind of rough, but it's still. It's really solid storytelling. That's the key. So to see what happens, you know, when crazy stuff happens on this campus, and you're kind of watching it unfold, page by page, and your two main characters are like the only people who realize what's going on. So, Lazaretto is one that most of you would probably overlook, but I hope that you'll give it a chance this week. Again, it's from Boom Studios, and definitely worth checking out. It's my pick of the week, and you liked it too.
I did. My pick of the week this week is Iron Man, Ironheart, Generations, The Iron.
We get Iron in there a few more. Written by Jeremy Irons.
Written by Jeremy Irons, drawn by... written by Brian Michael Bendis. With art by
four different people. Come on!
3 are credited, but yeah, sure, we'll say 4. Unless Sismon and Kurdansky are 2 different people.
No, that's one person.
Oh, okay.
But tell me that every page you turned didn't look like a different artist.
Yeah, there's different time periods. I did notice. Yeah. Hate it when that happens.
Carry on.
This is the Generations, what happened in the Vanishing Point when Riri Williams went in. Where does she show up in Tiny Stark's life? Unlike every Generations previously, she jumps to the future. So she meets an older Tony Stark, who's alive again, and not an AI in her suit. Because of this...
Spoiler alert.
It is what it is. That's the whole... Like, the first page, they're in the future.
No. I'm saying that the next storyline is, like, the search for Tony Stark.
Well, it's the battle for Iron Man, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. So we know Tony's going to be back.
Eventually. But we always knew he was going to come back eventually. I mean...
He's just in a coma, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's in... Sure, yeah, alright, a coma.
He was in the shower?
He's in a coma bad enough they can't fix it with Asgardian technology and all of the other stuff they have access... Kree, the Inhumans couldn't, like, shoot him up or something? Or, they're still pissed at him, that's right.
Yeah.
Civil War II. But this is awesome. Tony is, as we saw teased in a few of, at least one other book, is Sorcerer Supreme, and it's him and Riri. It's so cool to see a Tony Stark who's kind of finally at peace. Like, I mean, he's still doing his job, he's still protecting the world, but he's not as, I don't know, messed up as Tony always is in the regular timeline. He's still snarky and jokey, but it's just very cool to see him kind of, I don't want to say win, but like it was very satisfying to see Tony in that position. And it's great to see he and Riri interacting, because we got very little of that before he died in the actual universe. We also get to see who the Avengers are in the future. I don't know how old Tony is. This has got to be, what, 60?
He said like 129 years old.
Right, but I'm saying I don't know how old he is now, so I don't know how to extrapolate that out. But it's at least 50 or 60 years in the future, I would think. Well, it can't be, because those kids aren't that old.
Yeah. I don't
It's in the
know.
future. There are Avengers. You will recognize them.
Maybe.
You will almost certainly recognize them.
Can we tell them?
We can. It's the Avengers Next.
Yes. If you've never seen the animated film Avengers Next, you owe it to yourself to check it out. This was this like before Iron Man? I think it was pre-2008.
I'm not sure. It was right around that
I
same
know Josh
time.
will fact check me while he's editing, but God, that movie is excellent. That's the best Marvel animated movie as far as I'm concerned.
Not as high a bar as it might be, but yes, it is quite good. And apparently canon now. Although I think they've showed up previously in other Bendis Avenger stuff. So Iron Man Ironheart is awesome. If you like Tony Stark, if you like the writing of Brian Michael Bendis, you should totally check it out. And if you do like the writing of Brian Michael Bendis, this is your week, man. Jessica Jones 12 is out. The culmination of her whole story with Maria Hill. And Spider-Man 20 actually kind of pays off what they talked about last issue about Miles not actively being Spider-Man or not being Spider-Man in the same way. And he does it. He changes. Nothing will ever be the same again. No. But he goes off and makes some distinct life choices that are very cool and interesting because we don't usually get to see heroes walk away from it.
All right. Probably the most anticipated book this week. Journey to Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Journey to Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Star Wars: Captain Phasma, #1. Whew! This is written by Kelly Thompson, who we love. Artwork by Marco Cicchetto, who we love. Who did the Journey to the Force Awakens miniseries with Greg Rucka last year, or 2 years ago, 7 years ago, whenever it was before The Force Awakens came out. So, this answers the nagging question of what happened to Captain Phasma after she was thrown into the garbage masher at the end of The Force Awakens. And this takes place moments after that happens, and it is very, very satisfying. Very satisfying. In fact, someone posted a comment in the Comics Are Awesome Facebook group. How wasn't she just immediately executed because she let down the shields with like no fight at all? This answers that question. So this is part 1 of something. I don't know how many issues this is. My guess is 4 or 5. But man, Cicchetto's artwork is astounding. I mean, it was great when he was doing Punisher, and they did that Punisher, Daredevil, whoever else crossover. I don't remember. Spider-Man.
With the disc?
Yeah. And then he's had the chance to draw Star Wars characters several times, but this is just gorgeous artwork by Marco Cicchetto. And Kelly Thompson, that's the reason I was most excited about this, because she's tearing it up over on Hawkeye, doing a great job writing Kate Bishop, and this is tonally significantly different than what you read in Hawkeye. But Captain Phasma was a close second for my pick of the week this week. If you're a Star Wars fan, this is a must-read. This is not, some story that doesn't mean anything. I mean, it's going to explain how we get from point A in The Force Awakens to point B in The Last Jedi as far as Captain Phasma. I already mentioned Hawkeye and Kelly Thompson, but the new issue is out this week, issue number 10, which continues to be amazing. Let's go with some more Star Wars stuff, because it is the week of Star Wars as well as the week of Bendis. If you're interested in Captain Phasma, there is a hardcover novel out this week called Star Wars Phasma, written by Delilah Dawson. This is her origin story, available in novel form. Also, we have Star Wars Adventures, #1. This is published by IDW for reasons yet to be figured out. But, Disney owns a publishing company called Marvel Comics, and so IDW is doing Star Wars Adventures, all ages tales from throughout the Star Wars universe. This is outstanding. I'm super excited to be able to hand this to kids and to parents that enjoy Star Wars and all that fun stuff. This is stuff you can read with your kids, with your nieces, nephews, and it's a whole bunch of Star Wars. So the first issue focuses on Rey, and then we get an Obi-Wan story. It's called Tales from Wild Space. Super excited about this one. And then last but not least, the Darth Maul miniseries, which recently wrapped up, is now collected in graphic novel format. So Star Wars fans, y'all come and pick up some Star Wars goodness this week.
Yeah, and the Tales from the Wild Space, if that sounds familiar to you, there was a Star Wars young readers or young... I'm not really clear how the breakdown is for what age group is what, but there was a series of novels called Wild Space, written by Scott Cavan, or Kevin Scott, the writer of Adventures, and so the backups features characters from that. I don't even know if those novels were released in the U.S. I know they were printed in the U.K. I think we're getting them now, but I don't know if they were out previously.
Kevin Scott.
Yeah. So he has some history with these characters. And I was really interested because I immediately... With Star Wars, the world is so big that when you see something you don't recognize, you have to kind of make sure it's really new. It's not some random part of the canon that you weren't familiar with.
I don't worry about that.
I do worry. Well, because come on, that weird droid that's made up of all the other droids. And
yeah, where'd that guy... So that's from the...
Yeah, those are from the novels.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that
he's
guy,
like part
is that kid a main character?
He's the lead in the novels, or his parents are.
Okay.
And yeah. So they're explorers out in wild space. But yeah, he narrates the Obi-Wan story in the back.
So yeah, Star Wars fans, don't pass this up if you're a grown-up, because you'll enjoy it too. Man, all kinds of Star Wars.
Yes.
Oh, by the way, the director of the 9th movie got fired. So.
Which one was that?
Colin, the guy from Jurassic World.
Okay, I could see that.
Yeah, because his last movie bombed.
What was his last movie?
Regarding Henry, or talking about Henry, or whatever.
Regarding?
It's not regarding Henry.
Okay, because I'd watch Regarding Henry, and that's fine.
Chris Pratt.
Chris Pratt is in Regarding Henry, written
I
by
J.J.
J.J.
I met Harrison Ford last night.
Yeah?
At a convention. Or I was going to, but then they cut off the line right before me.
Harrison Ford. Scales and Scoundrels.
Theater.
Scales and Scoundrels #1 from Image Comics, written by Sebastian Gerner with art by Galad, or possibly Galade. There's 2 A's in a row. I don't really know about that. As a matter of fact, my only experience with 2 A's in a row is the Salad from D&D, which is a monster and probably not related to this guy. But D&D is sort of related to this story. We get a fantasy tale about a rogue who's having adventures, and it's really fun. She's a no-nonsense lady thief who don't take crap from nobody and just wants to enjoy the simple life. You know, it's very, very fun. It does a great job of mixing humor with fantasy tropes and kind of those heroic moments, that kind of great dialogue and voiceover kind of stuff, and then juxtaposing that with more humor. So, lots of fun. She is just trying to make her way in the world, and by the end of the issue, she hooks up with a prince who's got a treasure map, or at least some lead on finding some treasure, and she is being hunted down because maybe she's a dragon? I don't know. There was some dragon fire. It's not clear that it came from her, but other people might think she's a dragon, and so that's going to send some bad guys down her tail. And, yes, Scales and Scoundrels, surprisingly fun fantasy stuff this week.
Speaking of fun fantasy stuff, Lark's Killer issue #2 is out this week, written by Bill Willingham. Who's Bill Willingham, you say? The creator of Fables, one of the best comics of the 20th century and 21st century. Artwork by Mark Dos Santos, who also worked with Bill Willingham on Fables, if I'm not mistaken. So this is the story of a group of adventure seekers, treasure seekers, who find a dragon-type thing that's sitting on a bunch of bones. They find a dragon, and they think that the dragon is guarding a treasure, but the treasure may actually just be the story that the dragon decides to tell, which may or may not involve one of their ancestors and takes place in the past, but it kind of looks like our present. So there is the main character, Lark. She has another name. I can't remember what it is. And she is...
I believe her name is Meadowlark Lemon.
She is a scamp. She is a short round. She is a... who are those guys from Oliver?
The Artful Dodger?
Yeah, she's like a pickpocket living on the streets, but she doesn't look like she's living on the streets. I think she might be like a rich person that's just rebellion. She may be like Winona Ryder when she went crazy and was shoplifting stuff. So anyway, she was shoplifting at the local Walgreens, picking up some sunglasses, and all of a sudden, when she left Walgreens, she was zapped into this fantasy world, medieval times place. She has no idea what's going on, but people still want to kill her, so she hires a, what's the word for that?
Sellsword?
There you go. I knew that you would know that.
A mercenary. I mean, yes, there's lots of terms that are...
For a crinkled dollar bill. And so now they are trying to get away from the bad guys, and they're on the run. Lark is probably about, 16 maybe. So she gets to try mead for the first time in this. She tells her guy, what is his name? We have a name, right?
He does have a name, yes. It's mentioned a couple times.
Frog Barding.
That's his last name.
Well, that's what I'm going. That's all I need to know.
That's all.
She tells Frog Barding about her period. And then we get to meet, apparently, some bad sorcerers and things as well. So this is so good. I plead with you, don't let this fall by the wayside. Bill Willingham deserves your support and your love with this. And he makes a little bit of a plea. Not a plea, that sounds too desperate, but a request at the end of the book that we recommend this to people that enjoyed his work on Fables. So if you did, check out Lark's Killer. We still have copies of issue number 1 available, and issue number 2 is out this week. Excellent stuff.
Excellent stuff. Next up, just a series of books that are still awesome. Mark Waid's Champions, number 12, with art by Humberto Ramos. This is a Cyclops-centric story that I really liked. That's all. It was awesome. I enjoyed it.
Champions is great.
I like Cyclops more than most, but this was a very kind of...
You like young Cyclops.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I liked old
like
Cyclops in the 90s, 80s and 90s Cyclops. I don't like crazy murder people Cyclops, but...
I like that new outfit.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Lots of fun. Also, Christopher Priest has out Inhumans Once and Future Kings number 2 this week with art by Phil Noto. This continues to be, like Mark said last time, an Inhuman story I actually want to read, which is kind of an accomplishment. So if you liked the premiere of the movie last weekend, or the
you're the
pilot in theaters, or if you're waiting for the show, check this out. It'll give you the lowdown on the young adventures of the Inhumans. Also has a backup that features Lockjaw. And let's just see. Let's do a test here. Did you read this?
No.
Okay.
I should have.
Did you read Champions?
I did.
Yes. Okay. So you know who that is?
I do.
Okay. Psycho Man is in this, and Psycho Man is in Champions. The only possible explanation is his copyright is up, and we needed to remind people that we published Psycho Man, because there's no other reason to bring Psycho Man into anything.
If you want to read some classic Psycho Man, go through our back issues and look for Fantastic Four. Is that it? From your stack of stuff?
Yep.
All right, my final selection this week is Made Men number 1 by
some people.
Paul Tobin. We like him.
I do like Paul Tobin.
Illustrated by Arjuna Susini, published by Oni Press. So again, folks, we've got Devil's Due, Image, Oni Press, and Boom mentioned. I think. And
Marvel.
Well, yeah, I'm saying indie publishers this week. All kinds of awesome stuff. So the story centers on a police, I don't know what she is. She's part of like a narcotic squad. And she and her team are called out to assist with a bust, and that really goes bust, and her entire squad ends up being obliterated. She is also mortally wounded, but we do find out that is not going to stop someone with the last name Frankenstein. So this was excellent. This is a woman who is trying to escape her past and now finds that she's running headlong into it, and possibly it's time to embrace the fact that she's part of this family that might be feared and hated throughout history, and how can she use that to her advantage. She's a good person, she's a good character, and she makes some questionable decisions, but it's excellent stuff. Made Men is another one. Maybe completely new to you, not on your radar at all, but I highly recommend it.
Last up for me this week, Giant Days number 30 written by John Allison, art by Max Sarin. Giant Days continues to be awesome and relatable and exciting. I don't know why I'm going to give a recap because nobody cares but me, but things come to a head, secrets come out, lives are ruined, maybe. Giant Days is hilarious and enjoyable every month.
I don't read it.
I know. No one does.
I read the first
just
trade,
me and Paul
maybe.
Tobin.
I think I read... is that Paul Tobin?
No.
Wait, that's not Paul
It's
Tobin.
John.
This is Paul Tobin.
Paul Tobin reads it, though.
Oh, okay.
I assume.
So we've given you lots of new things to chew on this week. Pick up an indie book, whether it's Made Men, Lark's Killer, Lazaretto. What did you talk about? Something
Other
from
stuff.
Image, Scales and Scoundrels. In addition to stuff from DC and Marvel. And of course, Captain Phasma is all kinds of awesome, so you want to check that out. So these are the books we recommend. We'd go out and support your local comic shop. And if you're in our neighborhood, that would be us, Alter Ego Comics. If you want to continue the discussion about comics that are awesome, please join our private Facebook group. There'll be a link in the show notes below. Make sure that you give us a thumbs up on this episode if you liked it, and hit subscribe so you're kept in the loop every time we add a new video. So that'll do it for this week. We appreciate you watching, and we'll see you again very soon.